Hey guys, we're here today to talk about the importance of protecting your door hangers. Once you get something painted and finished and you're so proud of it, that's not the last step. You have to finish it off by giving it a protective coating that's going to protect it from scuffs, from bird poop, from mold, from dust, from, I don't know, anything that's going to happen to your door hanger. Because just painting the door hanger is not enough to protect all of your beautiful artwork. I have door hangers that I have had for probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 years now that are still beautiful today because I took the time to seal and protect them properly. Let's start out by talking about the right kind of wood to use. That is almost just as important as what kind of paint you use or what kind of sealant that you're going to protect it with. One of the most popular types of wood to use is plywood underlayment. You can find this at Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, and generally everybody is using it in 1/4 inch thickness. Now, this is a really cheap plywood underlayment that is normally used for probably building houses, but it is so affordable and lightweight. It is perfect for making door hangers out of. Another really popular choice is 1/4 inch thick MDF or medium density fiberboard. That is my wood of choice. We have a large wood shop on our property with laser machines that we use to cut all of the door hangers that we sell in our shop and ship to your front door. All of our pieces are cut out of MDF and go through an entire process before they even make it to you to paint. We first take the wood, put it on the laser machine, it goes through the process of cutting, then it is sanded to this really nice smooth finish, which I think really makes it so enjoyable to paint on. And people ask me all the time, what kind of MDF do you use? I can't seem to find MDF that is as smooth as yours. That's because the sign that you get from us that's ready to paint has already gone through that entire process and it's been sanded to this really smooth finish. It's not the rough MDF that we started with. So starting with the right kind of wood really makes a lot of difference. You want to start with something that's going to be sturdy, it's going to hold up for a long period of time, but it's not going to be too heavy on your door. You also want something that's going to be nice and smooth, not something with a lot of knot holes, because if it's got a lot of knot holes, then your little details and things that you're painting are not going to come out as smooth in the finished process. And a lot of times when you add a sealer to your project afterwards, especially if it has a gloss sealer, the gloss can make those little imperfections and knot holes show up even more because it's not quite perfectly smooth. And if the light bounces off of that not so smooth surface, you can see all the imperfections. One of the main questions I always get is, do I need to prime my door hangers first? Should I give them a coat of primer or anything like that? I personally do not prime my door hangers, but if you know that your door hangers are going to be exposed to a lot of weather, a lot of rain or anything like that, or humidity. Maybe you live on the coast and there is constant humidity from the ocean or something like that. Then it might be a good idea to give your door hanger a primer coat that has like a mold resistance, something similar to Kills or any other kind of primer that is going to protect against moisture. But other than that, if you're just painting a normal door hanger, you do not have to prime it first. I do sometimes like to paint white underneath the surface, but usually that's only in cases where my paint is going to be a little bit transparent and I know that that color is not going to show up as well against the brown color of the MDF. So painting in a coat of white sometimes will keep those colors nice and vibrant. If you're cutting out your own door hangers, let's talk about some things you might need to do to prepare your door hanger before you even sit down to paint. If you've cut out this piece using a jigsaw or a scroll saw, depending on the kind of wood that you're using, if you're using that plywood underlayment we talked about, you're likely to have some splintering or some unevenness in the wood. So I highly recommend that you give it a good sanding before you even start to paint. And so you're going to want to use maybe like an 80 grit sandpaper to sand those rough edges to get those extra splinters off. And then you might want to move up to like a 120 grit to go over it again and get it even finer and smoother. Once you have it as smooth as you can, dust off all that excess dust, maybe wipe it with a damp cloth or something and then allow it to dry. Then you're ready to paint. Next, let's move into talking about some different types of sealant that you can use. There are a bunch of different ones out there. If you just go to Lowe's or Home Depot or someplace like that, you're going to see like the Minwax brands, you're going to see Valspar, you're going to see Rust-Oleum, Krylon, all these different brands. The brand isn't as important as the application type, right? So you're not going to want anything that has polyurethane in it. Polyurethane is generally used on top of things that have been stained or something like that. Polyurethane, I just really wouldn't recommend using on top of paint. Let me explain why. If you use polyurethane on top of, let's say, white paint, it's going to cause that white paint to have a little bit of an antique look over time. And if you're going for that, that's fine. But a lot of times you're wanting your whites to stay white. You can look for something that has polyacrylic in it instead. So polyurethane is no, polyacrylic, yes. That would be a much better type. And polyacrylic is not oil-based. It is water-based, whereas polyurethane is oil-based. So if you're doing a mass quantity of door hangers and you know you're going to be putting a sealer coat on a lot of door hangers at one time, the best method would probably be to use a foam roller and have a little tray with the polyacrylic in there, and then just roll it on all of your door hangers. Be sure though to not only coat the front, but to also coat the back and the raw wood edge where it has been cut. That will seal up any of the areas where moisture may penetrate. And this is very important, especially if you are using MDF. Even our laser cut designs that we have cut and shipped to you that have that nice crisp black edge, those black edges need to be sealed as well, especially if it's going to be in a high moisture environment. If you don't get those raw wooden edges sealed, you will notice a weird dimpling underneath the paint where it looks uneven. Now, if you're just doing 1, 2, maybe even 3 door hangers, or you don't like using a roller, let's talk about a couple of different spray sealers that you might could use. These two are probably my favorites. We've got Rust-Oleum lacquer. You can find this at most any home improvement store. And I just get it in the clear. It is a high luster coating, gives a factory-like finish on wood, and I really feel like it goes on nice and even, and it's really affordable. Another option is the Deco Art Triple Thick Gloss Glaze. This is a spray sealer that you can get on the Deco Art website, so it works really well with a lot of the Deco Art paints. I have heard some complaints from groups that I'm in that certain types of spray sealers can cause the paint that is behind, let's say your white paint, to come through and change the color of it. For example, if you paint white on top of red, sometimes it can cause that white to turn pink. And so I have not had that problem with these two types of sealers, and that's one of the main reasons why I recommend these so often. If you want to see exactly how to apply this type of sealant, go and watch the video on my YouTube channel here, and I show you exactly how I would apply this across the surface of the door hanger for a nice, even, smooth finish. You're going to want to make sure and give your door hanger plenty of time to dry to let that sealant cure before you move it around, before you flip it over and paint the back, or before you add another coat. And you're going to want to make sure that is cured really well before you stack your door hangers up. If you're heading to a craft fair or something, you don't want to stack all of your door hangers up if your sealant hasn't cured yet, because then they will stick together and then you will have a nightmare on your hands. But this is another reason why you want to seal your door hangers, right? Because if you're doing a craft fair and you've got to stack a bunch of them up in a laundry basket or a tote or whatever it is you're using to get all your door hangers to the craft show, and they're bumping and riding in your car and rubbing against one another, that can cause the paint to like transfer from door hanger A to door hanger B, or to scratch the paint off, and that can be really frustrating. But if you have properly sealed your door hangers before heading to this craft fair, they are going to arrive looking just as great as when they left your house. And along these lines, one of the things I get asked a lot is, can I add custom lettering to my door hanger after I have sprayed sealed it? Let's say, for example, you had taken this door hanger to a craft show and you wanted to be able to put the player's number right here on the helmet or their last name. You need to go ahead and seal this before you even go to the craft show. That way it's not going to get damaged on the way there. You know it's ready to just hand right over to the customer as soon as they buy it. But if you want to be able to customize it after you get to the craft show for the customer, you can paint right on top of that spray sealer with your paint or with a paint pen. Now, once you've done that, you may want to give it another light coat of sealer. Now, if you're in an indoor environment, you might have to use a brush-on type of sealer, which I'll get to in a minute why I don't like using this on top of paint pens. Or you might need to step outside and give it a clear coat of sealer. But I personally think that if you have done your lettering with a paint pen and you've already got a clear coat sealer on it, you're probably fine. I've got a few frequently asked questions that I'm going to get into in just a moment. But before we do that, let's talk about maintaining your sealed door hangers. Once you have sealed it and you're maybe putting it up for the season and you're going to take it out again next year, before you put it away, I want you to get out just a little bit of soap and water, or a spray bottle with like a light cleaner and spray down your door hanger and just give it a nice little wipe over, because you might have dead bugs on it, a little bit of mold, or a little bit of just dust and stuff like that. And it's a lot easier to clean off now than it will be a year from now, after it has sat in your attic and that stuff has sit there and stuck to that sealer in the heat of your attic for an entire year. Our door hangers are going to get a little dirty hanging up on the door, but if you have done a good job sealing these, they're going to be so much easier to clean and maintain and look perfect the next time you pull them out to hang them up again. Okay, moving on to the frequently asked questions. Number 1, how long does the sealing process take? Usually for me, it only takes 2 to 3 minutes, and the dry time takes 5 to 10 minutes. So if I'm doing 2 coats on something, the entire process might take 15 minutes. By the time I do the coat, let it sit, do another coat, let it sit, and then it should be ready to go. Number 2, can I use any paint for door hangers? I don't know if you can just use any paint for door hangers, but I will say there is one brand that I'm particularly partial to, and that is the DecoArt Americana paints. These are matte acrylic paints that give a nice even coverage every single time I paint. I have used them for years, and that is my trusted brand and type of paint that I prefer to work with. But I know a lot of other door hanger makers prefer to go and buy latex paints that are normally used for outdoor painting on homes in their door hangers, because they already have a sealer built into them. So that's something you might want to look into. But I personally prefer to use DecoArt Americana paints, and then I like to seal my door hangers after the paint has been applied. Question number 3, how do I fix a mistake in the sealing process? If you're in the middle of sealing it and something lands on it, let's say like a cat hair falls right on that sealer, if you can quickly get it out right after you've sealed it, that would be great. If you've already sealed it and it's already dry and the cat hair is cemented in that sealer, there might be nothing you can do. I know that's hard to hear, but there may be nothing you can do that's not going to make it worse. I would hate to see you start sanding away at it or picking at that little cat hair, and now you've got a bigger mess than if you just left the cat hair alone. But one thing that you can try is to take a really high grit sandpaper, like a 220 grit or something like that, and just do really light circular motion and sand on top of that little area until that cat hair lets go of the sealed door hanger. Once it does, you can kind of dust it off. Again, take a damp cloth, wipe off any like sanding bits that you have sanded, and then once it's dry, go seal it again. This time, don't let any cat hair fall in it. Another mistake that may happen when you are sealing door hangers, and this is probably one of the most common, is that if you have used a paint pen on your door hanger and then you choose to use a brush-on sealer, you may have a headache on your hands. There's really only 2 ways to apply a brush-on sealer to your door hanger if you have used a paint pen. Option 1, spray seal it first, then use your brush-on sealer. And you may wonder, why would somebody want to do that? Some people just prefer the look of a brush-on sealer, and some people just prefer that a brush-on sealer is going to give your door hanger a better protected finish. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't really tested spray versus brush-on. I like them both, and I kind of tend to use both of them. I may use this one more in the summer, and I might use the brush-on one more in the winter, simply because it is harder in really cold weather to go outside and spray seal my door hangers. And so I might use a brush-on sealer during the winter months. But if you have used a paint pen on your project, you can, like I said, either spray it, then brush-on seal it, or when you are applying your brush-on sealer, do thin coats and only go across the area that has had a paint pen applied in one direction with one stroke. And I know that's really difficult, because when you're smoothing this stuff out, you have a tendency to want to go over the same area over and over again. But if you continue to go over the same area over and over again, it's going to cause that paint to be reactivated, and it's going to cause a nasty smudge. So if at all possible, use a spray sealer. Just save yourself the trouble. And for the last question, how often should I seal my door hanger? Really, you only have to seal that door hanger one time, right after you finish painting it. You shouldn't have to reseal it again. Unless, for example, if your door hanger has been hanging on your front door and it has been exposed to a lot of heat and UV rays from the sun, I could see where after 2 or 3 seasons, it might start to look a little dull. And that's probably because your sealer is starting to break down. So in that case, if it is starting to look a little dull, give it another coat of the spray sealer to keep it looking good year after year. Because eventually, if your sealer becomes dull and starts to break down, it can cause the paint colors to start to fade, and then that door hanger is not going to be as beautiful as it was the first time you hung it up. Thank you for joining me today as we talk about all things to do with sealing your door hanger creations. If you want to learn more about painting door hangers or painting in general, be sure and hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to like the video. That way you get notified next time I have a new video drop. We post new videos every Wednesday, and you're going to learn something every time I'm here. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.